Dude, back to a good weekend of us riding dirt bikes and then watching some dirt bike racing afterwards.
Seems to be a good habit to have.
I think so, man. It's hard to beat a weekend like that. A weekend with riding, but not getting to watch it on TV just feels a little empty on the second half of the day.
Yeah, it worked out perfectly too. By the time I left Kahia, drove home, unloaded, showered, ate all the normal post-ride stuff, the replay was available on Peacock app. So I spent the next 4 hours or whatever it was just watching motocross racing. It was a great day.
Dude, awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Well, let's recap the race from Unadilla.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with the track. I thought the track was very interesting just because on Friday, it absolutely downpoured. I was thinking, you know what? It's going to be a mudder. Maybe at best, we're going to see something like High Point this year, where it's a slot car style track, long, deep, gnarly ruts, which Unadilla is pretty infamous for.
I was expecting it.
But it ended up not turning out that direction. It ended up being quite a fast, racy, not such of a slot car style track, which I was pretty surprised by.
Yeah, praise to the track workers for getting the track to be in that condition.
I thought the track was extremely fast in multiple areas of the track. I think of after you do what was called the screw you section, they changed it to be the wall to be more politically correct. But we're going to call it screw you because we're not afraid to be
just slightly unpolitically incorrect.
Exactly, right?
That's not bad at all.
After you do screw you kind of come up, there's a table, 180 left, and then there was a double that leads you across the mechanics area, across the start straight, and pretty much from then on, all the way to like the finish line area is pretty wide open and fast. You saw Joe Shimoda make a great pass on Rider D in that area right before they go underneath the tunnel. But man, it's just crazy to see how fast some of these athletes were going, especially in the 450 class. I heard Chase Sexton comment and say, hey, the track is getting a little out of hand with how fast it is.
Yeah, I could see that, man. I was watching their speeds and I was really watching their wheels because the faster they get going, the more responsive their suspension needs to be. And on some of the tracks leading up to this, they weren't having maybe, let's say, on average, as fast of speeds all the time. And if you're a rider that likes to run suspension a little more on the slow side in terms of like rebound, you're usually going to struggle at these really fast tracks because the rebound is going to be not quick enough to allow the wheels to follow the ground as well as it should be. I really enjoyed watching the Honda and the Pro Circuit Kawasaki bikes because they both have show-up suspension, but obviously they're different brands and different setups, but they both get similar resources from Showa. It looked to me that the Kawasaki's were just glued to the ground over the weekend. They looked really good and seemed to have their settings really dialed. Not to say the Hondas didn't look as good, but in comparison, the Pro Circuit boys seemed like their bikes were just glued to the ground. And Levi was showing us that as well in terms of he was riding back to his, not Moto 1, first round days of Pala.
He definitely is back on form. We saw a little bit of it at Millville where he went 1-1 and kind of showed everybody what's up that day. I feel like this performance that we saw last weekend at Unadilla was pretty similar. Yes, he didn't win Moto 1. Hayden did get by him. But I feel like it was just a slight mistake on Levi Kitchen's part, just taking the wrong line, being in the wrong spot, and Hayden was able to capitalize on that. He did give Hayden a good run for his money towards the end of 250 Moto 1. He was only, I think he was like a second and a half back. You know, he was right there in Moto 2. I mean, it was him and Joe Shimoda just out front, duking it out. And, you know, unfortunately, we saw what happened with Joe. Broken collarbone. Super, super bummer to see that happen. I'm not going to say he's going to win that moto. Who knows what happens if the rest of the moto plays out and Joe doesn't go down. But overall, I mean, it's just super bummer to see that. Bummer if you're in the HRC Honda camp because Chance Hymas had a pretty rough day as well.
Yeah, good point, man. We could visibly tell Levi looked pretty frustrated Moto 1 coming over the finish line, which I think is a rad thing to see. Just a racer showing you like, fuck, man, like I thought I had that race in me. And he wasn't too far off. Second moto, they put an impressive gap on DangerBoy. Now, as we talked to before this, is DangerBoy maybe playing the long game now, like playing for the championship and going, hey, you guys got me for 15 seconds, fine. I'm not going to try to push it just to make up the gap. But still, like that has to make Levi feel quite good knowing, all right, we were ripping. We left him in third place. We had a good gap. First moto didn't go my way, but second moto, like, I'm back. Bummer to see how that wrapped out for Shimoda, because we did talk about this weekend or last weekend, there's a chance their results were going to go, not south, but there's going to be a wild card in their standings and they're going to have a bad race. And that was going to mess up the rest of their season. And it looks like for Joe, that is the wild card for his results.
Yeah, I mean, the track is the 41st rider in the gate, and it bit him.
Good point.
So yeah, bummer to see that, and it claimed a couple of different riders, which we will get to both in 250 and 450 class. Hayden Deegan, 70 points up, 2 rounds to go. I mean, there's only 100 points up for grabs. He's 70 points up again. I mean, this guy is, no matter what the kid does or doesn't do, he seems to be just trending in the right direction.
Yeah, man. I mean, as we saw, he still put it down in Moto 1, and by no means was he not trying hard in Moto 2. I just think he knew, like, I got this wrapped up, and I just got to finish in this spot.
One quick thing with Hayden, he can wrap up the championship this weekend. More than likely it is going to be this weekend, but he can wrap it up in Moto 1. If my math is correct, and Hayden wins the Moto and Kitchen finishes 3rd or worse, that automatically clinches the deal for Hayden Deegan. Going to be this weekend more than likely, unless something fluke or crazy happens. But yeah, I mean, he's a very deserving 250 Pro Motocross champion. So just want to highlight that point before we move on and get too far away from DangerBoy.
Good touch, man. And man, if he does, I wonder if he races the last round, maybe for like stats and points and stuff, but I could also see them just going, let's start preparing for Supercross.
Yeah, or even, I mean, I've seen 450 talk
at
Ironman. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Like,
that'd be cool.
125, I mean, I don't know. Like, it'd just be really cool to see something different.
Marchbanks, just 5.5. Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Switch teams mid-season, jumped on a bike that you know from past, but definitely in hell is not the same bike you previously rode many years ago. So just shout out to you, man. Way to jump on a brand new bike, jump back on a team that you're familiar with, and just throw in some good results.
Yeah, and Chance Hymas. I mean, I don't want to skip 250 class
before
Chance Hymas gets his shout out, because, I mean, hopefully he's okay. That was a nasty, nasty spill in 250 Moto 1. I was super impressed by his first lap speed. I was like, who is this guy? I mean, first off, I mean, let's go before that. His speed in qualifying was unreal. I mean, he was over 2 seconds faster, if my memory serves me correct, and just in qualifying. And then to come out, and I think he was around 5th, maybe 6th place, early in 250 Moto 1. And by the end of the opening lap, the dude was leading the race.
Well, you pointed out at Screw You, he passed 2 riders, I think, going down the damn thing.
Yeah, it's just insane the level that he was riding at, and you know, I'm sure he's super bummed with what happened later in the moto, but I mean, on the flip side of the coin, he's relatively okay. He's walking away with no broken bones, no soft tissue damage. I'm sure he rung his bell a little bit, which I think we saw in 250 Moto 2 when he pulled off and exited the moto early.
It's smart of him to do that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't force the issue and force the envelope when it's not needed. He's not in the title fight or anything like that. It's well beyond his means. So, yeah, so good to pull off.
Last shout out, just our guy, Tom Vialle. Tough season for you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, first moto, not how you wanted. You made up for it second moto. So it's, the talent is there. If this dude gets, I don't even know if it's a confidence thing, just things going more in his favor, he's going to be a hard guy to beat next year.
Yeah, I think for Tom, he needs more than maybe 2 weeks off for him to kind of hit the reset button. I feel like he's almost over this year. Yes, he did get the Supercross championship. That's all fine and dandy, but this summer I feel like was maybe supposed to be his, right? Especially coming off a Supercross championship, which I don't think a lot of us pegged him to win. I think a lot of us pegged him to win the Motocross championship before the Supercross championship. Not the way he thought his summer was going to go. Not saying it's necessarily a horrible summer by that means, but we expect him to win for the fight or win the championship, and you know, it's just not looking that way.
All right, so now the 450s.
Yeah, let's do it, dude. It's dude, 450 Moto 1 had me on the edge of my seat. I mean, Hunter Lawrence and Chase Sexton both led at different parts of the moto.
Yeah.
I mean, right off the bat, Chase made a really clean pass right before they crossed the finish line for the first time. Didn't even do a first official lap yet. And Hunter got him right back. Like, I think it was 2 turns later, Hunter got him back and clearly sending a message like, hey, I'm here to play, which was exactly what we talked about in our preview show for Unadilla, is Hunter needs to come out and win. And he did exactly that.
He did.
He didn't fully execute with Moto 2. And, you know, he was right there. It seemed like he just didn't get the jump and the start that he needed to compete with Chase in Moto 2. But, man, good on Hunter Lawrence for coming out in 450 Moto 1 and really just sticking it to Chase Sexton.
Yeah, especially on a new bike, too. You know, they seem like they made really good use of that downtime to get that new bike dialed in. And that new bike must be pretty freaking good for them to elect to want to race it at the end of the season, this close in the points, with so much on the line, and for them to go, all right, I'm feeling just as comfortable, if not better, on this new bike.
Yeah, absolutely. What a statement. I mean, when that came out on Friday, I was pretty surprised. I think we've seen Ryan Villapoto and the Monster Energy Kawasaki team do something similar. I want to say it's 2012.
Yeah.
Came out and really just started ripping moto wins and overalls. And I thought, wow, maybe Hunter Lawrence is going to do the same thing after 450 Moto 1. And he had a great showing in 450 Moto 2, but again, just didn't really get the jump. And Chase Sexton was off to the races in Moto 2. I mean, he was gone after the first lap. So, yeah, Hunter Lawrence, that 2025 CRF 450R looked awfully good. I was watching it through the bumps, and granted, how a rider is riding the bike is going to have the biggest influence on how the bike is actually handling, but the bike itself looked really good for its first debut or outing in a professional race here in the States.
Yeah, I hope this means that a lot of their 24 settings have kind of just crossed over to this new 25 bike. And since the rest of the bike got better, their settings just work better overall now. I say that because that means it'll make our job a lot easier for tuning your 2025 Hondas when they come in.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten one yet, but we're excited to check them out when they do roll in the shop.
Well, let's touch on Chase Sexton. I mean,
Yeah,
the
man.
guy, 2-1, didn't lose any points, didn't gain any points. Still has a 28-point lead with 4 motos to go. The time is ticking on this championship, and it looks like he's going to wrap up his first Pro Motocross Championship in the 450 class. Granted, he doesn't have a 250 title in the Pro Motocross Championship either, so yeah, man, he looks awfully comfy aboard his bike. And, you know, we've kind of had a conversation on and off camera about if he's going to stay at Red Bull KTM Factory Racing after his contract expires, we think in 2025. I'm starting to think that he's going to stay at KTM for quite a while now, just because of how happy he seems after the races. The results are coming around now after those long struggles during Supercross, maybe even towards the start of the Pro Motocross season, the struggles with the bike. It seems like that's all, I want to say put to bed now, but I feel like it's all kind of behind him. And if he's able to wrap up this championship, I think it's going to bode very well for Chase Sexton and KTM.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that, man. Because, I mean, confidence is huge. And when you start getting good results, that definitely can change or reframe your mindset, especially about what's going on. KTM's got a ton of resources. They got really talented people all around them in terms of mechanics, equipment, managers, and then obviously racers as well. So with Chase, it seems like they have a setup for him now that he can ride the bike pretty aggressive and maybe even over-ride the bike when he needs to. And the bike still stays upright. I'm not going to say the bike doesn't get a little twitchy and shake around sometimes, but when that happens, it's pretty obvious he is really pushing the bike and making up some time. And as a rider, I think they got to be pretty happy if they have a setting that allows them not only to ride their normal fast pace, but also push beyond that, and the bike still work. So yeah, I hope he stays. I have no reason to think otherwise. Just based on earlier, wasn't too stoked, and by that I mean Supercross season. But now, I hope it's just going great there. KTM deserves it. That team puts in a lot. They've been putting in a lot for many years, and yeah, I hope it's just nice to see a rider and then the people around him get good results and see their hard efforts pay off. That's just a really rewarding feeling. So not to discount anybody else on this list, but yeah, no, Chase is riding awesome. I'm excited to keep watching him race, and man, I want to see where he shakes out once we get Jet back in and some of the other people.
Yeah, his early lap speed in 450 Moto 2 kind of remind me of the Honda Chase that we became accustomed to seeing back in 2022.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, this guy is just unreal. Like, how could you go any faster on a dirt bike? I think he's really looking good for this title, and even Super Motocross too. I feel like he's in a really good spot for that too.
Our OGs, I guess they're OGs at this point, finally returned, and they showed you why they're some of the baddest dudes ever. Second moto, they're both running up front, Roczen and Webb, and they're showing you like, hey, we are still some of the baddest dudes that throw a leg over bike. We've been gone all season, but we'll suit up, rip some good starts, and be right up with the best of them. Didn't have like maybe the best finishes. Well, I mean, Roczen still got 6th and 7th. That's nothing to shake at, but
yeah,
jump in that late in the season and do that well, it just shows you the talent that these guys have, and kind of a loss we have not having them in the whole season.
Yeah, personally, I honestly, I was riding the Ken Roczen hype train coming to this. I picked him to win. Maybe I overestimated how difficult it can be coming back from an injury, you know, and yeah, he just didn't have the same spunk to me watching him in qualifying and in the races. Granted, 450 Moto 2, we saw some of that Ken Roczen speed and style early in the moto, making a lot of passes, made his way into second place. And he eventually did fade back a little bit, but it sounds like they're searching for something on that RMZ 450. And it also sounds like he's working his way back up to speed from that leg injury he sustained at Nashville Supercross. So yeah, but honestly, great on him for just coming out. I feel like the sport's better with the 94 in it, and I think a lot of other people would agree. Good on him for coming out, getting a gate drop, and getting ready for Super Motocross and Motocross of Nations. And then Cooper Webb, man, it sounds like he re-aggravated his thumb. I'm super gutted for the guy just because it's first race back. That's the last thing you want to see, regardless if you like the rider or not. Sounds like he did the same thing, but hopefully it's not, doesn't require surgery. Maybe he can even ride this weekend. But yeah, Cooper Webb, man, it's just big bummer to see him re-aggravate that thumb injury that he sustained to get Birmingham this year. So yeah, again, just well wishes and hope to see him back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, agreed, man. Dylan Ferrandis, that's the guy that rode second moto, how we've seen him ride before when he's won the championship in the past. He seems to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, his pass on Roczen at the bottom of the screw section was unreal. It just railed that rut and was just out of there, gone. I think we're starting to see some of that 2021 Dylan Ferrandis, maybe not at the exact same level, because I mean, he was on it that year when he won the Pro Motocross Championship, but he's definitely making strides to get better and better each round. So I'm hoping to see some great stuff from him for the last two Pro Motocross and Super Motocross. Who knows if he's going to be elected for Motocross of Nations in France. France always has a really strong team. I'm just excited to see where he finishes, if he's able to sneak in a podium or maybe even a moto win if the right opportunity shows itself for the end of the season. Yeah,
he's one of those riders where I feel like you can visually tell when he's feeling comfortable, and I don't say when he's not, because he still races well and finishes well, but when he's feeling comfortable, he has a much more kind of aggressive riding technique. Still good technique, but aggressive about it. And we saw that in Spade's Moto 2. He was just using all the track that he wanted to, as much as he wanted to, taking the lines he wanted to, and just good creativity over a track that got pretty rough.
Let's stick on KTM for a little bit. Aaron Plessinger notching another podium. Cowboys back on the podium. Stoked to see that. I feel like he's starting to ride kind of like how we saw him at Hangtown. I mean, Hangtown was great. Granted, he didn't get the moto win. Sexton kind of snagged it from him at the very last second.
Yeah.
But we're starting to see those similar performances from Aaron Plessinger. He's in an intense fight with Justin Cooper for third overall in the point standings. I think they're only like 2 points apart, if my memory serves me correct. So they've kind of been flip-flopping back and forth, Justin Cooper and Aaron Plessinger, who gets third or fourth in the overall standings. He's at KTM, Red Bull KTM Factory Racing for 2025, and I think that's going to be the end of his contract. Who knows what he's going to do after that in 26, if he's going to retire, if he's going to switch teams, if he's going to switch racing disciplines, who knows? But I mean, Aaron Plessinger, I mean, hats off to him. Like another podium and another great ride.
The 1 year extension is an interesting extension. I always wonder if that was more in favor of the manufacturer, that's what they wanted, or if that was more in favor of Aaron, that's what Aaron wanted. I'm curious on the equipment differences and similarities between Aaron's bike and Chase's bike, just out of pure curiosity. I'm not saying maybe one isn't provided the same amount of resources and access. I would assume they are, but also just what differences that they own individually have and how they set up a bike.
Yeah.
For it, because man, he's always right there.
Yeah. For sure.
You can't help but root for the guy. Anderson got another just, I don't want to say quiet, because he's always up there in the start of the race, but he always finishes riding on fourth. He went 5.5 for that just fifth overall. And like, this has to be his most consistent season, I think, in the 450s. Maybe not the top finishes he's wanted, but dude, he's been right top 5 almost every single race.
I do think he tends to thrive in more hard-packed tracks a la Washougal, to where he led most of the moto in 450 Moto 2. Before we end the show, I almost forgot about this, but Eli Tomac.
Yes.
Supposed to come back, Budds Creek.
Woo.
And I think of a couple different things. This is his first outing since the Fox Raceway finale in 2022 when he won his 4th Pro Motocross Championship. And this is also his first ride, or race, I should say, on the new gen YZ450F that was introduced back in 2023. Obviously, he missed all of 2023 Pro Motocross with his Achilles injury, and he hasn't raced all of 2024 because of his thumb injury. So first time we're getting to see him aboard the new gen YZ back in 2022 when he won that title. It was on the old gen. So I'm super curious to see how he does and how he likes the bike. Obviously, he has a great starting platform, I think, with other riders, Justin Cooper and Cooper Webb, developing that bike. I'm going to hold my predictions. I called Ken Roczen for a win. Maybe that was a bit too much, So for Eli Tomac, maybe I'm thinking, kind of ease his way back in there, see how he's feeling, maybe like a third, fifth place finish.
Yeah, he's one of those type of guys where you can visually tell when he's feeling it and when he's just kind of holding back a little bit and saying, I want to finish this race.
Yeah.
So hard to know what Tomac we're going to get this weekend. Hopefully the first one, somebody that's just going to lay it down and kick some ass.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, hard to, I mean, God, if I'm Tomac, I look at that list and I think I beat Sexton all the time. I've never really raced Hunter, but I got all these other guys covered. So I would think the amount of confidence he has going into this is pretty high.
2 ways to get the coin. You can go gnarly and say he's going to win, and you can be kind of, conservative with your pick and say, hey, maybe he's just easing his way back into it, doesn't want to pick up another injury or anything like that. So yeah, it also sounds like he's going to be in for World Supercross. So that's going to be cool. They've also added some rounds to the calendar this year. It's not just a 2-race series anymore, so it's a couple race series now. I think it's about 4 or 5 races.
Wow.
Granted, it's not a whole lot, but cool to see that series gaining some buzz and gaining some more schedule. Yeah,
that check is fat.
Yeah, that check must be.
Good for you, Tomac.
It's not bouncing, it's clearing, that's for sure.
Yeah, it ain't rubber.
Yeah. So, yeah, good for Eli Tomac. It's that time of the show where we do predictions, man. Who you got? 250, 450?
250, Chance Hymas. If he doesn't have any lingering effects from Unadilla.
I like it.
DangerBoy second, not because he can't win, but he's going to play the safe card. So if the win presents itself, he takes it. If not, he's cool taking second and third, but he's still going to have an overall finish of about second. And then Levi third. I want him to do better, but man, hard to bet against Chance after last weekend, at least seeing what he was doing before he went down. God, I peg Hunter and Chase swapping the wins. I just don't know who for what.
Yeah.
Chase Sexton with the overall because he gets the win second moto. He seems to be so strong second moto. Chase, he just seems to get faster as the day goes on. So I'd say Chase, Hunter. For third overall, Dylan Ferrandis.
I like it. Yeah. I really like it. Yeah, those are great picks. I'm going to go 450s first. I like what you said with Chase Sexton being stronger in Moto 2. I think we've seen that. And for Chase Sexton first, I'm going to go Hunter Lawrence in a close second place. And, oh man, third place, I'm going to go Jason Anderson, just to be different.
Cool, nice. Yeah, I like you're taking my guy, dude.
250 class. I'm having this dilemma in my head right now where Hayden Deegan is such an alpha male, alpha dog, like whatever you want to call it. I think he wants to go out there and just be like, just one last time show these guys, this is my class. Like, just go out there and show them another 1-1 performance. And another mind where I'm like, he's going to play it smart. Just make it through the round. If you want to do that, do that at Ironman. Wrap up the title first.
Good point.
Because you have time.
Good choice doing that the following weekend.
Exactly. So
pressure's off, championships wrapped up.
Yeah,
Good point.
I think Levi Kitchen for the win. I like what I saw from him at Unadilla. I think he's going to get his third overall win of the year at Budds Creek. I'm going to go Hayden Deegan second, and I'm going to go Chance Hymas third. I'd love to put Hymas a little bit higher just based on the actual speed that we saw at Unadilla, but I just don't know how he's going to feel after that crash. That's going to conclude our Unadilla recap show / Budds Creek preview show. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe to the Ride JBI YouTube channel for more shop talk, race recap, JBI tech tip, dare I say more videos. We've got it all here at Ride JBI.
For sure. Rider testimonials, feedback, development. Like we try to be the most approachable and transparent dirt bike shop you can think of.
Absolutely. Well, mic drop. Just blend it on that. We'll catch you guys in the next one.
See you guys.